The hot spring pool covers an area of about 20 square meters. Although it wasn't bubbling, it was emitting waves of steam. Whether fish could survive in it was unclear, but the soup would probably taste good. After all, it was brewed with rejuvenation spring water. The taste of breast milk. This is a hot spring. You can come soak after dinner. It's good for your health and beauty, Fang Hao said, rubbing Anya's head. Anya swatted his hand away, still curious about the hot spring. I'll go down and try it, she said, about to take off her clothes and get in. Eat first. Fang Hao pulled her back again. After dinner, Fang Hao checked the material reserves. There were ample materials to make the rejuvenation hot spring. Building one was enough, let alone 10. After discussing the location with the maids, they chattered for a while, before finally choosing an empty spot in the residential area to build a hot spring. He also reminded them that this hot spring was good for their bodies and they should soak in it. Often, the maids had successively taken the potions and had also begun physical training. The rejuvenation hot spring was also of great help to them, increasing their physique. Rabbit folk Nancy's loyalty to you has increased by 5 points. Current loyalty 98. Rabbit folk mommy's loyalty to you has increased by 10 points. Current loyalty 95. Foxfolk loyalty to you has increased by 5 points. Current loyalty 90. The loyalty of all the maids was increased. Most of them had now reached over 90. The few who had taken the potions were close to reaching 100 after dealing with the hot springs for the bunny maids. Fang Hao found Dimika again. My lord, I need a private hot spring. If possible. Dimika stood straight beside him. Fang Hao had originally intended to set up separate hot springs for men and women, but he didn't expect Dimika to want a private one. As a subordinate orange combat hero, a little special treatment could still be satisfied. Okay, built behind your house. Dimika nodded. Dimika had his own separate residence. Although the house wasn't as tall as the lord's mansion, it was separate from the maid's residential area. The two came to the back of Dimika's house, and a hot spring built of stone bricks appeared before their eyes. That ancient blade. Dimika's loyalty to you has increased by 2 points. Current loyalty 100. Subordinate Ear's loyalty to you has reached 100 points, and will not be affected by any negative status effects such as counter-espionage or betrayal. Thank you, my lord. Dimika thanked him again, took off his hard armor, and walked in with his longsword. Taking a bath with a sword? Wasn't he afraid of cutting himself? Fang Hao didn't say much and turned to leave Dimika's residence. Just as he left, he heard Dimika's he-ha sounds, and waves of sword energy struck into the distance. Was this training? Fang Hao shook his head, not understanding the habits of lizard people. After the hot spring was built, Fang Hao continued to build the rejuvenation spring well. He still had to sell rejuvenation spring tomorrow as usual, after finishing everything. The sky was gradually getting dark. Everyone was soaking in the hot spring, so he naturally had to experience the effect of the hot spring himself. The moon was already high in the sky, and the luminous stones emitted a soft light. That he stripped off all his clothes, wrapped a leather blanket around himself, and walked into the pool. The warm spring water washed over his entire body, and a feeling of comfort spread throughout his body, as if every pore instantly opened up and was healed by the rejuvenation spring water. Fang Hao felt as if his whole being had been sublimated, and the feeling of exhaustion that had been present for the past few days instantly vanished. Soaking in a hot spring is indeed good for both body and mind. He leaned against the corner of the wall, resting his head on the edge, and closed his eyes to rest. This moment, Anya's voice came from not far away. Hey, Ear, why are you wearing this outfit? What's wrong? Does it not look good? It's not that. It just feels a bit strange. Doesn't this outfit feel uncomfortable since it's so tight? It's okay. The two of them spoke, their voices getting closer and closer. As the back door opened, Ear and Anya walked over, holding hands. Ear was wearing a black bunny girl outfit. The split neckline seemed about to burst, and her fair legs were exposed to view. Anya was dressed in a sailor suit, revealing her agile figure. I knew it. You snuck over here to soak by yourself? Anya said, looking like she had seen right through him. Master, Ear said, blushing, standing by the edge of the pool. Cough, cough. Fang Hao coughed lightly and said, come down and soak. I've also built hot springs for the other maids. The three of us can soak here. Thank you, Master, Ear said, thanking him, and slowly entered the water. Anya had already jumped high and splashed into the pool with a splat. The pool was several meters wide, and Anya swam back and forth excitedly, shouting and yelling nonstop. Eeyore sat on the opposite side, her little face slightly flushed, her eyes quietly looking at Fang Hao. Fang Hao was also looking at her. Under the moonlight, Eeyore appeared hazy and beautiful. "Why did you think of wearing this outfit today?" Fang Hao asked softly. "I wanted to give Master a surprise." Eeyore stood up and walked step by step from the pool. The spring water wet her entire body, and the bunny girl outfit clung tightly to her body, completely showcasing her figure. Fang Hao sat at the bottom of the pool. Eeyore sat beside him, her body pressing tightly against his. She gradually moved closer, her arms and thighs touching Fang Hao, taking advantage of the opportunity to talk. She slowly sat in Fang Hao's arms. After a light exclamation, her whole body instantly flushed red. Anya heard Eeyore's exclamation, looked back, and asked, "What are you doing sitting in his arms?" "Nothing, I just fell." "Oh, Fang Hao, can I practice swimming here?" Anya looked at Fang Hao again. "Yes, but only on your side." "Okay, do you want to increase the difficulty, for example, swimming in the fog?" "Okay." Fang Hao raised his hand and released lingering mist, covering the entire hot spring area. The mist blocked their vision, and Fang Hao's voice could be faintly heard. "Eeyore, do you want to learn to swim? I'll teach you how to kick." Okay, Master." Under the clear and quiet moonlight, the sound of splashing waves echoed. The next day, early morning, Fang Hao woke up on time as usual. He yawned and rubbed his still blurry eyes. It was a new day again. He turned over and got out of bed, put on his clothes, but noticed that the transmission conch on the bedside had already stored a message that it was the slave trader's conch. He put the conch to his ear, and the slave trader's somewhat greasy tone came from inside. "Oh, my dearest friend, it's been a while since I last contacted you. This time I've brought new slaves and will be staying in the Manhwa market for 2 days. There are definitely slaves here that will satisfy you." The slave trader always used the same rhetoric, and he believed that the reason Fang Hao bought his slaves every time was because of his way of expressing himself, and he was happy to do so. After listening, he put the conch back to the side, put on his clothes, and walked directly out of the room. Walking straight down the stairs, Eeyore had already started preparing breakfast. The maids also began their work. "Good morning, Master," the busy maids greeted. "Good morning." Fang Hao glanced in the direction of the kitchen. "Eeyore, make breakfast simple. I need to go out later." "Yes, Master." As Fang Hao went downstairs, he was also thinking about the information the slave trader had sent. After careful consideration, he still planned to go to the Manhwa market to check on the development of the bronze ox, and also to replenish the number of maids. The shops in Lysa City were about to start operating, and the demand for maids was also increasing. The shop assistants recruited locally were truly not as obedient and useful as these maids. Before long, breakfast was served. Jia was woken up by Eeyore and brought downstairs, and Demeter also happened to walk in. They simply filled their stomachs. Fang Hao took the two of them onto the bone dragon and headed directly to Ox Head City. Ox Head City was Zhongbin City at first, but later Fang Hao transferred him to the city in the west, and this place was now managed by Bronze Ox. Fang Hao also directly changed the name to Ox Head City. The bone dragon landed, and Bronze Ox led several ox-headed guards forward to greet them. "Sir." Bronze Ox bowed, his ox eyes curiously looking at Demeter. This is Demeter, a newly joined hero. You two get to know each other." Fang Hao introduced simply. The two nodded at each other, considering it a greeting. Walking straight into the city lord's mansion, Fang Hao sat down in his seat. "How have things been recently? Are there any difficulties?" "No, sir. Everything is going very smoothly. The business at the Manhwa market is also getting better and better, and many villages are coming here to trade." Bronze Ox replied. The market in Manhwa was much better than before. Bronze Ox himself had also analyzed it, and a large part of the reason was the accelerated construction of Manhwa. The roads were flat. The market area was categorized, and stalls were set up, rather than just spreading a cloth on the ground to sell goods. All these changes were witnessed by the other villages. The reputation of the Oxen tribe was rising, and more people were willing to come here to do business or exchange for the goods they needed. "Good. This is a good sign, but it is also just the beginning of the plan. I plan to build Manhwa into an orc commercial city. Fang Hao said. Commercial city? Manhwa itself was already an orc market. How else could it be built? Bronze Ox couldn't quite understand Fang Hao's plan, but he didn't ask further. Fang Hao's willingness to put resources into the Manhwa market was a good thing for him and his people. Yes, sir, Bronze Ox replied. Fang Hao thought for a moment and continued. You will manage this Ox Head city from now on. He opened the Lord's book and found the subordinate city conversion function. But do you want to convert the Ox Head city? Subordinate city into an original subordinate city? After conversion, the acting governor will not have the function of using the city lord's book, including but not limited to recruitment, upgrade, production, etc. functions. And the city buildings and troops will be retained. Subordinate city conversion. Fang Hao had never tried it before. Now Bronze Ox was doing well, and they hadn't found a new city lord to take over here. So he might as well give it to Bronze Ox. Convert. Conversion successful. You can name the city here, and an acting governor can be set up in the city lord's mansion. The governor's information can be viewed in the lord's book at any time. Next, Fang Hao wrote Ox Head City in the city name and Bronze Ox. Tylok as the governor. Setting complete. Ox Head City level. Level 5 original city attributes. Tax plus 10%. Orc reproduction plus 5%. Pasture farming plus 5%. Description. A city with attributes can bring various different bonus effects and accelerate the construction and development of the city. As the subordinate city was converted into an original city, special attributes were also added. The attributes should change according to the race of the set governor, not according to Fang Hao's own faction. Original cities were not incapable of being upgraded. Instead, they could not use the city lord's book. To put it simply, if you wanted to upgrade, Fang Hao had to personally make a trip and use the lord's book to upgrade if it were an ordinary subordinate city. The city lord would use the city lord's book to upgrade. Thank you, sir. Bronze Ox bowed again. He didn't understand what Fang Hao had done, but he could guess it was the same kind of magical power as before. Let's go. Let's take a look outside. Fang Hao got up and walked out. A group of heroes followed behind, arriving at the center of the city, where dense skeleton soldiers stood on both sides. A million undead were stationed here, serving as the first barrier, defending the east side of the main city. When on standby, these undead would stand still like terracotta warriors, rigid in formation. Even if there were white marks with bird droppings on the helmets of two soldiers, they still did not move. Fang Hao thought for a moment, opened the Lord's book again, and found the blueprint for the barracks cave. Level 1 barracks cave category. Special building maximum capacity 10,000. Construction required. Wood 1,500. Stone 3,200. Iron 520. Metal parts 80. Description. Soldiers can be hidden here to achieve strategic objectives. He chose a suitable location and selected to build a glowing phantom. Rose from the ground. After it dissipated, a stone staircase leading underground appeared before the few people. Fang Hao took out a piece of luminous stone and went down to take a look. It was very similar to the underground parking lots in the original world. A level 1 barracks cave could accommodate 10,000 soldiers. Fang Hao tried to upgrade the barracks cave. Level 2 barracks cave, maximum capacity 20,000. Level 3 barracks cave 40,000. Level 4 level 5 barracks cave, maximum capacity 100,000. Upon reaching level 5, the maximum capacity had reached 100,000. Fang Hao discussed with Bronze Ox and built 8 barracks caves beneath the training ground in Ox Head City, leaving the soldiers who continued to patrol, and the rest all entered the barracks caves to stand by. After dealing with the matters here with Bronze Ox, Fang Hao did not stay long. Under the escort of the Ox Head soldiers, Fang Hao and his one-line people arrived at the Manhwa market in the afternoon. The orc market was still lively. Many orcs were loudly selling their goods. And when they saw Fang Hao, a human, and the lizard men, they immediately came forward to promote their items. Fang Hao ignored these people and walked directly towards the warehouse where the slave traders usually stayed. Warehouse area. The slave trader held the cards in his hand and cursed in a low voice. Another bad hand. I must have stepped in dog shit today. So unlucky. His eyes began to scan around, planning to find an excuse to stop playing. And also to avoid losing his last few coins. He was looking for an excuse. He saw a human striding in at the entrance. Slap. He threw down the cards in his hand and shouted excitedly, "Oh, my benefactor is here." Without hesitation, he dipped his finger into the wine glass, wet his finger with some wine, smoothed his hair, and excitedly walked towards Fang Hao. "My dear friend, welcome." The slave trader rubbed his hands, his face full of joy. "I see you were playing cards. I hope I didn't interrupt your good fortune," Fang Hao said casually without stopping his steps. "No amount of good luck can stop me from hosting my best friend." Fang Hao smiled. "Let's go. Let's see your goods this time." Right, right." The slave trader led the way, and everyone quickly arrived at the warehouse. Just entering the warehouse, an orc girl was sitting on a wooden box with her legs crossed, eating an apple. Suddenly, someone came, which also made her slightly stunned. Her gaze met with everyone's. Feeling a little awkward. "Should I go back to my cage?" After speaking, she crawled back into her cage, extended her hand through the gaps in the iron bars, and with a crisp click, locked the padlock. This series of actions made it difficult for Fang Hao to understand. The orc girl was about 1.2 to 1.3 meters tall. Like a little girl who hadn't grown up, she had brown hair and a pair of beast ears. Unlike in Jia, this girl's upper body was close to a human, but her exposed legs outside her brown shorts were covered in smooth fur. Her feet were not wearing shoes, and her sharp fingertips were like beast claws. When she sat cross-legged, the black pads on her feet could be seen. "Is she also a slave?" Fang Hao asked. "Yes, she's a slave. She stopped us on the road and sold herself." Selling oneself to slave traders was a first. I'd never heard of that before. "How about taking a look at the slaves we brought this time?" The slave trader said. "All right." The oilcloth was pulled open, revealing the bunny girls and fox girls inside. A total of 21 people. The slaves huddled in the corner, timidly looking outside. "All right, I'll take them all," Fang Hao said directly. "Great. I'll go get the paperwork for you." The slave trader beamed. He knew that as long as he brought over the beast women, Fang Hao would be sure to buy them all. The iron cage was opened, and the bunny girls and fox girls were brought out, heads lowered, not daring to look forward. "All right, stop being so downcast. You should be happy to have such a tall and handsome master," the slave trader said loudly, not forgetting to say some flattering words to Fang Hao. The slave contracts were handed over, and Fang Hao collected them all. That he was just about to leave with these slaves. Crack. A crisp sound suddenly came from the iron cage beside them. Everyone looked over and saw the beast woman in the iron cage, her small hand extending slender fingernails, poking at the heavy iron lock and opening it. She bent down, crawled out of the iron cage, approached Jia, and looked at her carefully. "You're Jia. I remember your hair color." Hearing this, the brows of several people furrowed, and they looked at Jia with questioning eyes. The latter also looked puzzled. "You know me?" "I'm Luo Li. We fought when we were little." "Forget it. Too many people have been beaten by me. I can't remember." And Jia directly gave up on recalling. Luo Li pouted, looked at Fang Hao, and excitedly said to Jia, "You really went to a human city? Is someone willing to take you in?" "It's not called taking in. It's called joining." Just as the two were talking, Fang Hao also walked over. As he approached, he saw the attributes of the beast woman. Beast woman warrior, tier 9. It was hard to believe that this 1.2 meter tall beast woman was actually tier 9.1 more tier, and she could undergo the hero trial. "You guys know each other?" Fang Hao asked. "Don't know each other." "Know each other." The two gave different answers. "Is there something you need?" Fang Hao asked Luo Li. She didn't seem like a slave, freely entering and leaving the iron cage, as if it were her own home. Luo Li sized up Fang Hao, then looked at Jia and said, "You're a city lord?" "I guess so," Fang Hao replied. Luo Li's big eyes rolled around, and she said, "Really? You've already taken in Jia, so can you let our village be attached to your city?" "Village? Yes, my village is migrating. We need a reliable city to attach to," Luo Li said excitedly. "How many people are in your village?" 200 or so. Joining me requires signing a slave contract. You have to think it over carefully. Do all the people in the village have to sign? Not necessarily. Just your village chief or patriarch can sign. Fang Hao said. If we are attached to your city, will you provide us with security? What do the humans in the village need to do? Luo Li continued to ask. It seemed that she didn't have much resistance to signing a contract with Fang Hao. Can you farm? A little. What about animal husbandry? Some people in the village can. What are your specialties? We're very good at hunting. We can catch a lot of prey. This. Fang Hao looked at Luo Li's 1.2-meter height. What could you hunt? Catch rabbits? Fang Hao also thought of Luo Li's characteristics. She seemed to be good at lockpicking, and her small size could make her a thief. It seemed that he didn't really need a thief, but this beast man, named Luo Li, had already reached Tier 9 and would soon be able to advance to the hero trial. There were many Beastman-affiliated villages in the territory, so it wouldn't hurt to add one more village. Fang Hao thought to himself. Luo Li's expression became a little uneasy. It seemed that this human city lord was not very satisfied with her and her people. Friend, don't underestimate them because of their size. In the Beastman tribes, the Blackfoot tribe are very good scouts, the slave trader said from the side. The slave trader had his own understanding of the characteristics of various races. He also knew what buyers would value. Blackfoot tribe. Fang Hao looked at Luo Li's black beast feet. All right, if you are willing to join us, you can move the village over, Fang Hao said, looking at the somewhat expectant Luo Li. Okay, Luo Li said, relieved. You signed the contract with me first, and then when the village comes over, let your village chief sign a contract, Fang Hao said. Luo Li's big eyes rolled around, and she looked at Njia, who was folding her arms to the side, and nodded. Okay, I trust my judgment. A slave contract was sent over, and Luo Li directly pressed her handprint on it. Everything was decided by Fang Hao and Luo Li, and the slave trader stood silently to the side. By the way, how much is she? Fang Hao asked. We're friends. As long as you pay for her food expenses during this time, you don't need any other fees, the slave trader said. That's not good, is it? It's okay. A beast head gold coin is enough. Fang Hao took out a beast head gold coin and paid it to the slave trader. It seemed that the slave trader wanted to send away Luo Li, an uncontrollable slave, as soon as possible, with the contract signed. Fang Hao could also check Luo Li's attributes. Luo Li, Tier 9, Camp, Beastman race characteristics, living being, obstacle avoidance, cat feet skills, elegant landing, raise sharp claws, hunt the weak inherent skills, intermediate combat proficiency, intermediate stealth proficiency, obstacle avoidance. The body is small and flexible, avoids obstacles, and is not easy to trigger traps. Cat feet can walk in narrow places without making footsteps. Elegant landing reduces the impact force by 50% when falling from a high place. Raise sharp claws can make the nails sharp, attack power plus 50%, climbing speed plus 30%. Hunt the weak deals 100% damage to fleeing enemies. Description: for a long time, the Blackfoot Cat tribe changed the Beastman's concept of judging combat power by size. The Blackfoot Cat tribe is more like forest scouts or thieves than warriors. Skills such as obstacle avoidance and cat feet give them good concealment and sneak attack abilities. They may not be a match for orthodox beastmen in head-on combat. Moreover, their body size is inherently small. After reading Luo Li's attributes, Fang Hao took the slaves he bought and returned to Bullhead City. When he saw Copper Bull address Fang Hao as Lord, Luo Li realized that Fang Hao was not just the city lord of one city. The prosperous Manhwa market was only a part of Fang Hao's territory. This made Luo Li very excited, secretly praising her sharp eyes and making a wise decision. Copper Bull prepared food for the newly purchased slaves. In their trepidation, the slaves ate cautiously, their eyes constantly glancing at their new master, as well as Copper Bull and Anjia. Copper Bull was different from Anjia. He held high prestige among the beastmen. Since the new master had gained Copper Bull's approval, he shouldn't be too cruel. All the slaves were thinking this in their hearts. At the other end of the table, Fang Hao continued to look at Luo Li and asked curiously, when will your people arrive? Do you need me to arrange someone to pick them up? The Black-footed Cat tribe's attributes were quite good. Becoming an affiliated village was also a good decision. Luo Li sat on the chair, swinging her legs back and forth, and said, Can I go to your territory first to take a look and get familiar with the way? Of course you can. Having signed the slave contract, Fang Hao didn't need to worry about his secrets being discovered. Why did you sell yourself to a slave trader? Fang Hao continued to ask. According to the slave trader, Luoli stopped the slave trading team and sold herself. Oh, I planned to go see the humanoid cities, but I wasn't familiar with the way. Just then I heard those guys were selling slaves to humans. So I simply followed along. Luoli had an expression that said, "Everything is within my plan." All right. Fang Hao didn't ask any further. This Luoli's thought process was comparable to Anjia's, after the rabbit girls and fox girls had all filled their stomachs. The large group began the return journey. When the outline of the main city and the undead army spread across the mountains came into view ahead, a historic scene played out once again. The rabbit girls and fox girls who fainted, and those who didn't faint huddled together, their faces full of fear. Luoli, at this moment, was on all fours, her back arched, and her fur standing on end all over her body. She turned around and was about to jump off the carriage, but just as her hind legs exerted force, Anjia grabbed her neck and pressed her firmly to the ground, and no matter how she struggled, she couldn't break free from the restraint. The carriage team passed directly through the undead army and entered the city. Error came out with the maids to greet them. And seeing the rabbit girls and fox girls behind the carriage with faces full of terror, she wasn't too surprised anymore. All right, take them to get familiar with the place and explain the territory's rules. Fang Hao got off the carriage. Yes, master. Replied with a smile that was the head maid. And it could be said that all these newly added maids would have their work arranged by in the future. Getting to know each other in advance was also beneficial. What about me? Luoli was at the side, not knowing where to go. The slave contract was signed. She couldn't even run away. You go and see as well. Get to know the territory. Fang Hao said. Oh. Luoli jumped off the carriage and chased after and the others. The crowd dispersed, each going to attend to their own matters. Fang Hao returned to the Lord's mansion, took a sip of the fruit wine handed to him by a maid, and recovered from the fatigue of the journey. After resting for a while, he walked out of the Lord's mansion again, preparing to go check on the progress at the tailor's and the goldsmith's. On the way, he saw a tall skeleton troll passing in front of him. This skeleton troll had only one eye in the middle of its forehead. It should be the Cyclops that was converted yesterday. Check attributes. Skeleton, Cyclops, Tier 7, Faction, Undead. Racial traits, Undead. Hollow skeleton, light weakness, lack of depth perception. Skills, boneless body, multiple attacks. Great club. Innate abilities, intermediate combat mastery, intermediate defense mastery, advanced blunt weapon mastery. Lack of depth perception, target perception 30%. Boneless body, passive skill. Physical damage taken is reduced by 35%. Multiple strikes, active skill. Launch 2 heavy strikes with a great club. Great club, active skill. Hits the target, damage increased by 25%. Causes knockdown and knockback effects on small targets. Note, skeleton units converted from corpses still retain the characteristics and attack methods from when they were alive. It's actually a Tier 7 unit. Fang Hao continued to check the other converted Cyclops. They were all Tier 5. Only this one was Tier 7. It seems there was a small leader among the Cyclops that he and his group killed. It's just that he didn't pay attention at the time and killed it without realizing. There's nothing much to say about the skeleton. Cyclops attributes. The skills mention great club, and the mastery is blunt weapon mastery, which implies it needs to be equipped with a spiked club weapon. Among the racial traits, there is also lack of depth perception, reducing target perception by 30%. This is a bit unreasonable. They're already undead. Their eyes are empty sockets. And reducing perception by 30% for lack of depth perception seems a bit odd, but the attributes were generated like this, and he couldn't do anything about it. After checking the skeleton Cyclops attributes, Fang Hao continued on to the tailor's and chatted for a while. By the time he returned to the Lord's mansion, had also returned with the group of newly added maids. The worry on their faces had lessened considerably, but their gazes towards Fang Hao were still shifty and evasive. Master, shall we prepare dinner? Ear said, "Okay, are their houses arranged?" "They are properly arranged, and there are enough houses." Ear replied, "Then prepare dinner. Let them get familiar with the environment today, and arrange work tomorrow." "Yes, master." Ear went to prepare dinner, and the newly added maids were arranged to be led to the warehouse to collect daily necessities. From now on, they would live here. Lord's mansion hall. Luali held the wine glass filled with fruit wine in both hands and carefully took a sip. She asked, "You really won't turn us into skeletons? If you want to become a skeleton, you can become a skeleton." Fang Hao said, "No, no." Luali quickly shook her head and continued to ask, "Then if my people come over, will you make things difficult for them?" Her own fate could no longer be changed after signing the contract if this wasn't the right choice. She wouldn't bring her people over. As long as they abide by the rules within the territory, I naturally won't make things difficult for you, and you will receive support and protection." Fang Hao said, "Just like Chief Copperbull. Copperbull's tribe is just one of them. Within my territory, there are nearly 200 beastmen tribes, and they all need to abide by the rules here." Having developed to this point, the territory was no longer the small village it once was, including the large and small beastmen tribes within the Coldwind Mountains. The number had already exceeded 200. "Oh, then I need to think about it." Luali was still a bit uneasy. "Okay, you can live here for a few days now and get familiar with the place." "Oh, thank you." Luali thanked him. It seemed Fang Hao wasn't that overbearing. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Just as the two were chatting, there was a rapid sound of hooves outside the door. Immediately after, a greatsword infantryman walked in, carrying a man with a sack over his head. He stepped forward 2 steps and said, "My lord, this person claims to be the bartender from the Rose Tavern and says he needs to see you. Commander Terry asked me to bring him." Terry and the greatsword infantryman were stationed at the main city's southern fortress, and this bartender went to the fortress today, specifically stating he had important news to tell Fang Hao. Fearing it was important, Terry arranged for men to bring him here to avoid trouble. A light-proof sack was placed over his head, like a hostage. "Take the thing off his head. I'll ask him," Fang Hao said. The greatsword infantryman pulled off the sack, revealing the bartender whose face was somewhat flushed. The sack was pulled off. The bartender also saw clearly where he was. A spacious and bright hall. Bright luminous stone chandeliers and heavy, draped silk curtains. The bartender blinked his eyes to make his vision clearer. Beastmen and lizardmen stood on either side in front. And there were also maids wearing black and white dresses cleaning at the side. What's going on? Was he brought to the royal palace? The tavern isn't busy today? The bartender looked up towards the sound and on the stone steps of the throne. A familiar face was smiling and looking at him. It was Fang Hao. Right. He came to find Fang Hao. "Fang Hao, the boss was taken away. She said to tell me to come find you. Only you can save her." The bartender shouted, instinctively taking a step forward. However, a cold glare from several heroes made him instantly retract his foot. This place was even more luxurious than the city lord's mansion in Pearl City, increasing the bartender's sense of awe. Even a fool could see that Fang Hao was not the ordinary rich second-generation heir they imagined on the Bone Throne. Fang Hao frowned slightly. He had invited the tavern's proprietress to help him, but she had refused. Now, the bartender was coming to him for help, which didn't seem to fit the proprietress's personality. "What happened? Tell me everything in detail," Fang Hao asked. He was quite familiar with the proprietress, and she had provided him with a lot of information before. Fang Hao would help with things within his power, but it depended on what it was. "It's like this. This morning, Bennett came to the tavern with people and took the proprietress away on charges of theft. We waited until dusk, and the proprietress had someone bring back a letter, mentioning those cultists and telling us to come to you," the bartender said, taking out a crumpled piece of paper from his clothes. The paper was handed up by a maid. The words written on it were very small. Just 2 simple phrases. "We have been controlled by cultists. Go find Fang Hao." Cultists? The mention of cultists made Fang Hao think of the Palebloods wearing huge hoods. "Who is Bennett? Did you steal something?" Fang Hao asked again. The name Bennett sounded familiar, but he couldn't quite recall it. "Bennett is the son of the former Minister of Internal Affairs. Our tavern values its reputation and would not steal anything. It's obviously just an excuse from Bennett." the bartender said, his face full of anger, hearing that it was the son of the Minister of Internal Affairs. Fang Hao remembered who it was. It was the pimply guy who had been beaten by Njia. He had been imprisoned by City Lord Cyril before, and now it seemed he had been released, now that Bennett had arrested the proprietress. It was likely that she had been targeted for providing Fang Hao with a lot of information. What about the cultists? What's going on with the cultists? Fang Hao continued to ask. The term cultists was the nickname the proprietress had given to the pale bloods. Wearing hoods in broad daylight made them look like cultists. In the past few days, many people wearing hoods have appeared in the city. When Bennett arrested people, he also had a few with him. The proprietress nicknamed them cultists. The bartender continued to answer. Fang Hao didn't say anything, but he had already made a judgment in his mind that it seemed that Cyril had chosen the wrong path. The Blood Clan had clearly formed a cooperative relationship with Pearl City, appearing openly in the sight of the residents. And even with the consent of City Lord Cyril, the Blood Clan had been targeting Fang Hao. Even if this matter didn't involve the tavern, he would have to find out what was going on. After receiving the news, he needed to see what the Blood Clan and Cyril were up to. How do you want me to save them? Fang Hao asked. I don't know. The bartender shook his head blankly. Then where is your proprietress being held? They're not in the city. After the city gates were closed at dusk, they were escorted away, heading southeast. Taken away? Yes, I followed them for a while before rushing here. The bartender continued. It took an hour to travel from Pearl City to the fortress. It would also take a considerable amount of time to rush here from the fortress. If they continued to delay, they might not be able to find them anywhere. Go and call the Blood Hunter, Fang Hao said, looking at the maid beside him. Yes, master. The maid ran out. Are you brave? Fang Hao asked the bartender again. The bartender thought he was going to be asked to do something dangerous, so he quickly shook his head. Not very, very small. Then bring a sack. Oh, the bartender was puzzled, but he still put the sack over his head. Soon, the skeleton hero, Blood Hunter, walked in. His huge bat wings folded up, he strode forward. Master, you called for me. The bartender was wearing a sack and was standing in the middle of the hall. Blood Hunter walked past him. However, from under the loose sack, he saw a pair of iron boots walk past, and the ankle exposed above the iron boots was a pale white bone. His heart trembled, and his body trembled violently. What was going on? How many races had Fang Hao gathered here? Lizard men were one thing, but how could there be undead as well? Fang Hao looked at Blood Hunter and said, Blood Hunter, I need you to investigate a team of people. They departed from Pearl City and are heading southeast. I suspect they are going to the Blood Clan's Bright Moon Highlands. Go and investigate. Yes, master. Blood Hunter didn't waste any words. After receiving the order, he turned and left. After leaving the Lord's mansion, he rode the bone dragon and flew southeast. After explaining the matter, Fang Hao looked at Loli, who was shaking her legs and watching the excitement, and said, Loli, I'll arrange a task for you. If you complete it well, I'll build you a house separately. Hearing Fang Hao's words, Loli's eyes lit up. Okay. Fang Hao opened the map in the Lord's book and pointed it to Loli. Here is Pearl City. Go and investigate for me and see what the city lord here is up to. Okay. Loli agreed readily. The heavy sword infantry took the bartender and Loli away, and Fang Hao also began to mobilize his men, waiting for them to send back news. Southeast of Pearl City, on a flat open space, a team of 500 people was gathered together for a short rest. This team was composed of villagers and lower-class residents, and was also the first batch of human residents transferred from Pearl City. Cyril had reached an agreement with the Blood Clan. He would transfer residents to the Bright Moon Highlands in batches, to become the population under the rule of the Blood Clan. These villagers' villages were remote, or they were petty thieves and criminals who had been arrested on various charges. Even if they suddenly disappeared, it would be difficult for others to notice. When night fell, the guards escorting them took off their hoods, revealing their scarlet eyes, and people realized that something was wrong. But it was already too late. But now they couldn't do anything. They could only hope for a miracle to happen. Aside sat two men. The older middle-aged man was thin, his eyes radiating the same red light as the Blood Clan, while the younger man was no different from humans, with a hint of sternness between his eyebrows, and he often scratched the itchy pimples on his face. These two were the former Minister of Internal Affairs of Pearl City and his son, Bennett. Father, I also want to become a member of the Blood Clan, so I can have power. Bennett said he was somewhat envious that his father had already transformed into a Blood Clan member. The Minister of Internal Affairs on the side, his thin face slightly serious, said, "The business of Pearl City still needs you to take care of it. When you are old, when you reach my age, you can transform into a Blood Clan member." According to City Lord Cyril, after transforming into a Blood Clan member, one cannot appear in the city. Bennett thought about it and felt that what his father said was right, so he didn't say more on the topic. That kid Fang Hao actually closed his shop during the day. Otherwise, I would have arrested all of his bunny girls and tortured them, Bennett said, stomping his feet in hatred. This matter is not urgent. Cyril is also afraid of Fang Hao's strength. For now, we should handle the Blood Clan's affairs well. When the time is right, there will be opportunities to deal with that kid. The Minister of Internal Affairs still looked ahead and said calmly, "Father, you're right," Bennett said, then cursed again. It must be that tavern woman who told Fang Hao something, so she took her people away. Damn it, I'm going to teach that woman a lesson. After Bennett finished speaking, he got up and walked towards the rear of the team. The Minister of Internal Affairs did not stop him. These people who were taken away were originally gifts for the Blood Clan. Life and death were no longer important. Bennett found the woman resting in the crowd, kicked her to the ground, and tore at her clothes amidst the woman's screams. Slap. Bennett slapped the woman in the face and roared, "You stinky bitch, if you dare to shout again, I'll kill you." The woman stopped struggling and wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. "Not here, go aside." "Ha ha ha, good." Bennett let out a triumphant laugh, pulling the woman towards the bushes on the side. The villagers nearby wanted to stop them, but after the Palebloods revealed their fangs, they reluctantly crouched back down. Now everyone was a lamb. No one could guarantee that the next one to die wouldn't be themselves. The woman was forcefully dragged towards the woods nearby. She didn't resist, but stumbled along behind Bennett. Having walked all the way from Pearl City until now, her legs were numb and her feet were throbbing with pain. But she didn't dare to stop, because those who couldn't walk or slowed down the progress had already died tragically on the road that I in front of everyone. Their throats were torn open by fangs, their bodies thrown onto the carriage. And the journey continued. She didn't know where they were going, nor did she understand why they killed people and still carried the bodies forward. She had heard the conversation between the father and son just now and knew that she was the target of Bennett's anger. The woman stumbled and was dragged towards the woods nearby. The woods were dim. She knew what she was about to face, and she also knew that this was her only hope of escaping. If she didn't seize this opportunity, she would never have another chance to escape. About 5 or 6 meters from the camp, Bennett stopped. He forcefully threw her forward. "What are you going to do now?" "These guys won't say anything if I kill you," Bennett said with a sneer that it was like a hunter playing with his prey, making the prey try its best to please him before killing it. The woman's eyes changed rapidly. She let down her hair and voluntarily took off her top, revealing her ample body. Bennett stood by and watched, the smile on his lips growing wider. The feeling of having power was too good, even better than it was in Pearl City. Bennett pushed her to the ground and pinned her down. "Ha ha, let me see how you taste." The woman didn't speak, but wrapped her arms around Bennett's neck. The excitement made Bennett a little breathless. The wild rose of the civilian district was the dream lover of who knows how many drinkers. Now wasn't she also a wanton plaything trying to please him? Bennett stroked her smooth and tender thighs, lifted her long skirt, and was about to go further. Suddenly, a slight pain came from the back of his neck. Then, hot blood flowed down his neck and dripped onto the chest of the woman beneath him. Bennett frowned and reached for the back of his neck. He felt a steel nail that had already pierced through. Bennett realized something, and fear began to appear in his eyes. He wasn't a blood race yet. This injury was enough to kill him. Bennett used all his strength to push away the woman who was hugging him and turned to run towards his father. That he still had a chance. As long as he returned to his father, the blood race would definitely have a way to cure him. Seeing Bennett turn to leave, how could the woman give up this opportunity? Like a mad leopardess, she pounced on Bennett. She held his jaw tightly with her left hand, pulled out the steel nail from the back of his neck with the other hand, and stabbed his neck repeatedly. Puff, puff, puff. More and more blood flowed, and Bennett's struggles became weaker and weaker. Finally, he stopped moving. The woman collapsed to the ground, without a trace of strength, even from such a distance. The smell of blood still attracted the attention of the blood race in front. They started calling Bennett's name and walking towards here. The woman was tired, and watching the blood race get closer and closer. She smiled. Dying with Bennett seemed worth it. She closed her eyes and waited for death to arrive. She only hoped that death wouldn't be so painful. Just as death approached and the blood race revealed their fangs at her, whoosh, bang. Suddenly, there was a sound of air breaking from above. A red light spot trailing a long tail of flame exploded above the campsite, the orange-red glow illuminating the entire area. This was a flare, a tool that originated from the dwarf race. Easy to use and easy to make. Just as everyone looked up at the sky in confusion, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Immediately after, there was the sound of air breaking, and giant wings that covered the sky and moon swept across the air. Skeleton undead leaped from the giant winged creatures and fought with the blood race with crimson eyes. Thump, thump, thump. Behind the woman, there was also the sound of dense hooves, and a human knight was the first to enter her sight, cutting off the head of a blood race that revealed its fangs as he swept past. Then came more human knights carrying greatswords. She didn't recognize these people, but their armor and greatswords reminded her of the warriors Fang Hao had left behind at the hot pot restaurant. Fang Hao came in 10 minutes. The battle was over. The skeleton warriors quickly retreated, and the greatsword infantry followed closely into the battlefield. They loudly comforted the frightened villagers. Everyone, don't panic. We are humans, and we are here to save you. Now let's count the number of people. Everyone can go home in a while. The greatsword infantry shouted in unison so that all the humans present could hear. When everyone quieted down and was no longer so panicked, the infantry began to count the number of people and make the final adjustments. Young man, are you with Miss Njia? An old man seemed to recognize a greatsword infantryman. The infantryman looked at the old man and asked curiously, "Old man, do you know me? Last time, when there was a monster in our village, well, you were among them." "I remember," the old man said. "Oh, it's you, old man. It's all right now. Our Lord knows about this matter. You can go back and continue to live in peace." The infantryman continued. "Oh, thank you. You're welcome." The old man returned to the crowd, and the others immediately gathered around to ask about the situation. "It's all right. I know these people. They were the ones who eliminated the monster in our village before. Nothing will happen," the old man said to everyone. With someone recognizing these people, everyone felt a lot more at ease. That no one asked about the undead. They gathered together to recover their strength. After a while, the infantryman shouted again, "All right, everyone follow me back first. The smell of blood here can easily attract other vampires." At the mention of vampires, everyone became nervous again. They helped each other up and began to follow the large group back in the direction they came from. The proprietress walked out of the woods at this time, wearing the clothes she had pulled off Bennett's body, covered in blood. She followed the large group and began the return journey. At the same time, Pearl City. Inside the City Lord's mansion, City Lord Cyril sat on the City Lord's seat, with a well-dressed middle-aged man sitting next to him. Below, on both sides, were seated the city's powerful figures, as well as some wealthy merchants. This is how things are. Mr. Fielding is in charge of this plan. As long as you agree to this plan, you will have the opportunity to become a blood race and forge eternal life. Cyril said softly that he chose to cooperate with the blood race. But Pearl City could not openly betray the human race. This would trigger a war, and he wouldn't benefit from it. Therefore, he needed some supporters to help him complete this plan. And the people in the city who needed to show their faces would still maintain their human identity. When they grew old and retired behind the scenes, they could transform into blood race, escaping death and disease. This plan could be said to be very tempting. The people present had enjoyed a wealthy life, and the brevity of life had become their concern to this time. Cyril could act as an intermediary, allowing them to become blood race after they got old, which made everyone present very tempted. "Okay, since City Lord Cyril is taking the lead. I am willing to join this plan. One person said first. Okay, I agree too. As one person spoke, the rest of the people present also voiced their agreement one after another. The number of people who agreed had already exceeded half. Everyone sitting here was intelligent when Cyril brought up this matter. He had already made full preparations. There was no room for dissenting opinions. Those who disagreed probably wouldn't even be able to leave this room. Mr. Fielding, do you see anything to add? Cyril looked at Fielding, the bloodkin, beside him. Fielding sat beside the city lord, and everyone understood the implication. From now on, Cyril would only be the nominal city lord of Pluer City. Major decisions would have to follow the bloodkin's will, under the candlelight. Fielding's skin was frighteningly pale. He smiled slightly, his fangs flashing as he spoke. Distribute the sacred blood to everyone. This was bestowed upon you by the Duke. You will not become bloodkin, but you can possess some of the bloodkin's power. A young man walked out from behind the scenes, holding a golden goblet filled with bright red liquid. The young man's appearance instantly drew everyone's attention. They all recognized his identity. City Lord Cyril's seriously ill S.O.N.A.T. this moment. He had fully recovered and was smiling as he distributed the liquid in the goblet to everyone one by one. The sacred blood gave me the power of rebirth. This feeling is wonderful. You should all thank my father and thank Mr. Fielding, the young man said. The people present nodded repeatedly, but still felt the young man's smile was eerie, sending chills down their spines. People held the goblets in their hands. The smell of blood pungent. What's wrong, everyone? The city lord has also prepared a banquet for you, Fielding said with a smile. Looking at the crowd, this type of blood would not turn people into bloodkin, but it was a very good means of control. After drinking it, they would slowly transform into pale bloods, which were highly addictive. Once consumed, it would create dependence, which was why the bloodkin didn't worry about pale bloods escaping or betraying them. At Fielding's urging, everyone drank the blood wine in their hands. The crimson liquid slid down their throats, and a tearing energy filled every corner of their bodies. The drinkers covered their throats, letting out painful roars. The roars lasted for several minutes. Everyone stood up again. The initially pungent liquid began to taste sweet, and some even started licking the residue left inside the goblets. Ha ha ha! Fielding burst into laughter. The scene before him was so similar to what had happened before. On a similar night, the city lord had gathered all the nobles in the city and had everyone drink this liquid together. He remembered that his voice had been hoarse for several days after roaring before it slowly recovered. However, these people were only transforming into pale bloods. They hadn't truly become bloodkin yet. Mr. Fielding, what's next? Cyril asked softly, his expression calm. We should celebrate for the eternal life you are about to gain, Fielding said. All right, let's go everyone. The banquet is ready. Cyril stood up and walked towards the dining room on the side. The others had lost their initial fear. They felt power and were satisfied in their hearts. They followed behind Cyril and walked towards the dining room. And on the narrow vertical window, a skeleton gray sparrow flapped its wings and quietly flew away. In a dense forest outside Pluer City, Fang Hao dispelled his divine presence state and sat up. He pulled open the tent and walked out. Outside were the undead troops, ready to go. They had been stationed here for over an hour, just waiting for Fang Hao to wake up and give orders. Lord, Loli has returned with a large bag of things. Dimika had been guarding outside the tent. Fang Hao sending Loli to investigate the city lord was actually just giving her something to do. He had the strength to overwhelm Pluer City. Whether there was evidence or not was no longer important, as long as he was certain that Cyril posed a threat to him. He had the ability to eliminate him. Where is she? Over there. Dimika pointed to the side. Fang Hao nodded and headed towards Loli, with Dimika following close behind, providing personal protection from a distance. He saw Loli and Anya huddled together, rummaging through something that in front of them was an exaggeratedly large package. There's nothing valuable, Anya said. What do you mean nothing? Isn't this valuable? Loli retorted. How much is this worth? Have you ever seen anything good? Maybe you're just asking too much. Fang Hao walked directly up to the two and asked, Loli, did you find anything? Ah. Loli was startled as if frightened, and all her fur stood on end. She patted her chest when she saw it was Fang Hao. Honestly, with undead troops all around, she was still a bit nervous. Yes, Loli dumped everything from the package onto the ground, scattering them all over. I went to the city, Lord's study and bedroom, and brought everything back. Fang Hao looked at the pile of items on the ground. He almost thought she had emptied Cyril's house tea, sifted through them that he didn't find anything related to the Bloodkin. But he did see a document that caught his attention, Hundred Cities Federation Agreement. This wasn't the first time Fang Hao had heard about the Human City Federation, and he was quite curious about it. He opened the document and began to read it carefully. After reading through it once, he gained some understanding of this federal system among humans. The human city-states were established in the form of agreements. According to this agreement, the various city-states in the region united to form a powerful alliance to jointly resist foreign races harmful to humans. It was also this federal structure that allowed humans to hold a certain degree of influence here. Those who agreed to become members of the Federation would sign this agreement, proving their identity and abiding by the system set by the Federation. When he saw that the Federation system would not interfere with the replacement of a city lord, Fang Hao's expression brightened. This meant that if Fang Hao took over this city, as long as he selected a city lord according to the Federation's regulations, they would not interfere with Pluer City's affairs. This was a good thing, as it could avoid a lot of subsequent trouble. How is it? Is it helpful to you? Loli squatted beside him, asking hopefully. It's all right, Fang Hao replied. My house, I can build one. Yay. Thank you. Loli cheered. Loli's loyalty to you has increased by 5 points. Current loyalty is 75. Loli's loyalty had increased by 5 points, which was a significant improvement. Fang Hao smiled slightly, stood up, and said to Dimika and Anya, get ready. We will take Pluer City tonight. Their eyes instantly lit up. Fang Hao was finally going to make a move on Pluer City. The night in Pearl City was unusually quiet, except for the scattered starlight in the sky. The entire city was almost pitch black. There were a few scattered torches on the city walls, but hardly any defending guards were visible to eye in the quiet night. The bone dragon directly delivered the people inside the city walls. Anya and Lori killed the guards and directly opened the tightly shut city gates. Large numbers of undead flooded into the city, moving through the dark streets towards the Lord's mansion. Inside the Lord's mansion, the banquet continued. Everyone discussed future development and pondered under what pretext they could better transport the lower class residents to the glorious Moon Highlands. Pearl City belonged to the outer edge, cities of the Federation. Even if something happened here, as long as the city lord didn't report it, the Federation would have difficulty detecting anything if everyone was careful. Concealing it for a few years wouldn't be a difficult task. This was also the reason Cyril and the Blood Race dared to take the risk. Haha, we will still have to rely on Mr. Fielding's help in the future, Cyril said. Fielding smiled slightly and nodded gently, just as everyone was toasting and flattering each other. Outside the door, intense shouts of killing could be heard. Bang! The door to the banquet hall was forcefully pushed open, and a large number of guards and faint-blooded individuals retreated into the room in disarray. City Lord, undead have attacked. A guard shouted loudly. Swish, swish, swish. Dense arrows poured into the room from outside the door, and several more guards were struck by arrows and fell to the ground. Breathing their last, Cyril's eyes narrowed slightly, and his expression instantly turned cold. He overturned the long table, led everyone to hide behind it, blocking the arrow attacks. Who is it? Cyril looked at the guards who had fled in again. It's the undead. A large number of undead, the guard said, his face pale and still shaken, inside the room. They couldn't see the situation outside. Only countless arrows pouring in from the windows and the large door. Undead? Hearing undead, Cyril looked at Fielding beside him. The Blood Race had the ability to command undead, so he thought of them. Fielding also frowned tightly and asked the faint-blooded individuals who had just fled in. What's going on? The faint-blooded individual said, Sir, they are undead skeletons. A large number of undead skeletons. Upon hearing skeletons, Fielding thought of the undead territory to the north. Could it be that the other party received the news and specifically came to attack here? How could it be such a coincidence? City Lord Cyril, these are skeleton undead. They have nothing to do with the blood race. Let's think about how to deal with them. All right. As the two talked, more guards were struck by arrows and fell. Blood flowed like a stream. And those who had drunk the blood race's blood began to have red eyes, swallowing saliva as they looked at the blood. The rain of arrows lasted for half an hour. The entire banquet hall was filled with arrows, the shafts covering the corpses on the ground. Stop shooting. A familiar voice suddenly came from outside the door. Cyril frowned, trying to recall where he had heard this voice before. The arrows outside the door stopped, and a large number of undead units flooded into the hall, surrounding the people behind the central long table. Cyril and the others instantly turned pale, facing such a disparity in forces. No strategy could change anything. Thump, thump, thump. Footsteps sounded, and the undead in front parted, clearing a path. A black-haired young man, accompanied by a beast-eared girl and a lizard man, appeared before them. City Lord Cyril, why didn't you invite me to the banquet? I love lively occasions the most, Fang Hao said with a smile, speaking loudly. Fang Hao. Cyril's expression turned a bit cold. Then he questioned loudly. You dare to collude with the undead and attack a human city? Demeter Jia moved a wooden chair behind Fang Hao. Fang Hao sat down and looked directly at Cyril. Colluding with the undead is better than you colluding with the blood race and selling out the residents, isn't it, City Lord? Everyone's expressions instantly changed. They only learned about the blood race's plan after Cyril explained it tonight. How did Fang Hao know? And his tone was so certain. What nonsense are you talking about? What blood race? Cyril's expression remained unchanged. Fang Hao looked in another direction, at the pale, tall, and thin man. Twilight Reveler, Tier 10. What do you say, Mr. Fielding? Fielding showed a slight smile. I presume you are the master of the undead territory to the north. I didn't expect you to be a human. Fielding's attitude was very calm, as if he was complimenting a noble. Mr. Fielding is indeed clever. Fang Hao did not deny it and continued to ask. I'm a little curious. At what price did you convince a human city lord to join you? The hall suddenly fell silent, and most people's eyes fell on a young man beside Cyril. The young man's appearance bore some resemblance to Cyril, coupled with his emaciated appearance, as if he had just recovered from a serious illness. Fang Hao instantly understood. The proprietress had mentioned that Cyril's son was seriously ill and unconscious, and might not live for many years. A great father, an incompetent city lord? Cyril, your story could be written down. Perhaps someone would be willing to read it. Fang Hao continued, facing Fang Hao's sarcasm. Cyril did not show anger when he made this choice. He had already anticipated the infamy. Even those below must be cursing him in their hearts for betraying his responsibility as city lord for the sake of his son. Fang Hao, this has nothing to do with you. Pearl City is mine. It is human. Please leave here. Cyril spoke again. Do you think I brought so many people here to be guests? Fang Hao sneered. Cyril wanted to speak several times, but didn't know what to say. The Twilight Reveler Fielding had been thinking of a countermeasure. Seeing that the two were no longer speaking, he said softly, Mr. Fang Hao, it seems there is some misunderstanding between us. We mistook you for an enemy. Now that the misunderstanding is resolved, I hope your territory and the glorious Moon Highlands can maintain peace. Fielding played the role of a merchant in the blood race, and his mind and eloquence were excellent. He was responding appropriately to the current situation. He didn't want to die here. I did kill Giovanni, Fang Hao said. What? Fielding frowned, and the next second he reacted. Fang Hao knew about the events in the glorious Moon Highlands. He also knew that everything was because of the investigation into Giovanni. The other party knew everything. He wouldn't survive. Fielding's eyes became a little unfocused. Making peace was absolutely impossible. The only hope was to capture Fang Hao and use this human as leverage to get himself out of the room. He quickly exchanged a look with Cyril, who nodded slightly. Kill. Fielding snorted coldly, propped himself up on the long table with both arms, and instantly pounced towards Fang Hao. Cyril also picked up the long sword of a fallen guard nearby and shouted loudly, Charge out. Everyone began to counterattack, launching an assault towards the large door. Puffed. Demeter Jia's long sword pierced through Fielding's mouth, coming out from the back of his head, firmly pinning him to the overturned long table. The others engaged in a fierce fight with the undead. The scene was chaotic. Blood flowed across the ground, and the smell of blood rose to the sky. There was no suspense in the battle when Cyril and the others died. The entire scene returned to silence. Clean up the battlefield. Anya, go call Tavik, Fang Hao instructed softly. The night was deep, and everyone carried out the cleanup work according to Fang Hao's instructions. Fang Hao went straight to the Lord's mansion hall. When Hisbut sat on the city lord's throne, the system prompt appeared again. Pearl City has become your affiliated city. You can rename the city here and control all resources of the tribe and affiliated villages. The system prompt indicated that Pearl City had become Fang Hao's affiliated city. He had considered many possibilities, but never imagined he would occupy this human city in this way. Nor did he expect Cyril to turn to the Blood Clan, treating the residents as livestock gifts to them. In any case, Pearl City was now his. He didn't plan to change the name. At least not yet. Pearl City level. Level 5 original city attributes. Grain production plus 30%. Textiles plus 5%. Human reproduction plus 10%. Description: a city with attributes that can bring various benefits, speeding up the construction and development of the city. Pearl City was only level 5, and the added attributes were nothing special. Unlocked blueprints. Textile factory construction blueprint. Infantry training camp construction blueprint, human. Target range construction blueprint, human. Cavalry training camp construction blueprint, human. Blacksmith shop construction blueprint, human. Tailor shop construction blueprint, human. Many blueprints were unlocked, apart from the textile factory blueprint. Fang Hao had already collected the rest long ago. The difference lay in the racial restrictions. After giving Zhang Bin and Fu Lei the authority to use these blueprints, they could build the corresponding buildings. Textile factory category. Building abilities. Textiles plus 10%. Material savings plus 5%. Description: building a standardized factory is conducive to the processing and manufacturing of textile raw materials. Construction requirements: wood 2200, stone 4500, hardwood 1200, stone bricks 880, iron 200, metal parts 120. Taek had a textile factory and had even taken Fang Hao to visit it. He previously thought it was just a casually built large shed, but he didn't expect it to have blueprints and attribute bonuses. Just as Fang Hao was studying the blueprints, the scene was more or less cleaned up, with the corpses of the Blood Clan and humans piled separately. Lord, does this Blood Clan member need to be executed immediately? Dimigo walked over, dragging Fielding, and threw him on the ground. The Blood Clan possessed powerful healing abilities. Even though Fielding had been pierced through the back of his head by a long sword, he was still not dead, but had entered a near-death state. The injury was slowly recovering. Fielding was safe enough. He could recover in a day. Tie him up first. He might be useful later, Fang Hao said. Yes, Lord, Dimiga replied, tying Fielding up, fearing that he would heal too quickly. The longsword stabbed him a couple more times. Just as the two were talking, Jia also brought Taek in. However, Taek looked a little disheveled at this time, his face covered in dust and his expression tired. Not at all like he had just come from home. Fang Hao glanced at Jia, suspecting that Jia had beaten him up before bringing him over. When I went to his house, his family said he was arrested early yesterday morning. I brought him out of prison, and Jia explained. Fang Hao nodded, indicating he understood. Mr. Fang Hao, what is going on? Taek's legs were shaking. A large number of undead were gathered outside the city lord's mansion. If Jia hadn't been holding him by the back of his neck, his legs would have been too weak to walk. City Lord Cyril colluded with the Blood Clan, attempting to use Pearl City as a spy for the Blood Clan among humans. Fang Hao pointed to Fielding on the ground. Taek looked at Fielding lying on the ground and swallowed. This news was hard to believe, but the person on the ground did have the characteristics of the Blood Clan, and Fang Hao had no reason to lie to him. Then, what about City Lord Cyril? Taek continued to ask. I killed him. The body is over there. Clang. Taek's legs went weak and he collapsed to the ground. Jia stepped forward, picked him up again, and threw him into a chair to sit down. Taek, Cyril is dead. Now Pearl City has been occupied by me. I hope to support you as the city lord to manage Pearl City, Fang Hao said. The situation in Pearl City was somewhat special. The original stability still needed to be maintained. He needed someone familiar with the city's residents, someone with a certain prestige to serve as the city lord. After thinking about it, he only knew Taek, the cloth merchant. He had large factories in the city, providing a large number of jobs for the whole city, and could be considered to have a certain prestige. Oh, Mr. Fang Hao, don't joke. Taek felt that this joke was not funny at all. Taek, this is not a joke. Some residents will return at dawn. They are the residents I rescued from the Blood Clan. Fang Hao looked at Taek seriously and continued. I need someone to stabilize the situation, so as not to cause panic among the residents of the city. Taek fell silent. He could feel the changes that had taken place. In the city these days, some keen businessmen had already begun to transfer their industries. But his roots were in Pearl City, and he couldn't leave even if he wanted to. Until yesterday morning, Cyril arrested him on trumped-up charges, and he realized the seriousness of the matter. Now everything Fang Hao said was completely consistent with what he had experienced. Fang Hao had saved him more than once. There was no reason to deceive him. But the undead outside looked no more kind than the Blood Clan. At least the Blood Clan still had human appearances. The undead only had bare bones left. Mr. Fang Hao, what should I do? Taek thought for a long time and still decided to agree. Fang Hao had saved his daughter and had also saved him. If he wanted his industry or wanted Pearl City, he could easily get it. There was no need to go to so much trouble. It's very simple. I need you to sign a contract with me. I will support you to become the city lord and manage this city and your cloth industry well. Fang Hao replied. But if I become the city lord, will others agree? Taek asked embarrassedly. Are you referring to those supporters of Cyril? They are all dead. The rest will not object as long as they don't want to die. Fang Hao said indifferently. Taek swallowed, his face full of surprise and uncertainty. It seemed that not only Cyril had died, but also many of the city's dignitaries. After thinking for a while, Taek finally agreed. Okay, I believe Mr. Fang Hao. The slave contract was signed by the two. Taek's loyalty was initially 85 points, which was very high. After that, the two discussed the subsequent plan. The sun gradually rose on the horizon, and all the undead quickly withdrew from the city to avoid causing panic among the residents. Taek left. According to the plan, he began to take over the city's guards and went to the prison to rescue the other dignitaries imprisoned by Cyril and persuade them to support him as the city lord. Fang Hao continued to go to the residence of the deceased city lord Cyril. He moved all the valuable and portable items outside to be taken away together. Later, in Cyril's room, Fang Hao also found his target, the golden treasure chest. He opened it directly. Obtained military spear production blueprint, blue. Military round shield production blueprint, green. Hardwood cavalry bow production blueprint, green. Nightshade silk textile machine production blueprint. Hardwood double bed production blueprint. Hardwood screen production blueprint. Commander Fortress command chair production blueprint. Soul Crystal 22, War Coins 202. The rewards from the treasure chest were plentiful. Military spear, blue iron spear 1, hard tough wood 1, cast iron block 1, thick tough leather 1. Description: a military spear that has been improved many times, increasing the weapon's hardness and attack power. The military spear seems to be an improved version of the ordinary iron spear. The materials even require an iron spear as a base, and the rest are advanced materials. Fortunately, it's a blue-grade equipment, so the damage should be at least level 3 or higher, perfect for replacing the skeleton spearmen's equipment and enhancing their combat power. Continue checking the second item. Military round shield, blue iron sheet, small round shield 1, cast iron block 1, metal parts 3, thick tough leather 1. Description: a military round shield that has been improved many times, greatly enhancing the army's defensive capabilities. Like the military spear, the military round shield's materials include an iron sheet small round shield. It's an improvement that significantly boosts the original equipment's attributes. After storing the two blueprints, continue checking the third blueprint. Night glow silk loom, hard tough wood 5, thick tough leather 2, iron 2, cast iron block 1, metal parts 5. Essence of Charm 1. Description: through the loom, Corresponding high-quality fabrics can be produced. It's actually a silk loom with a name. Sacred Snow Silk is Tavik's prized possession. The reason his fabric business hasn't been eliminated is because of Sacred Snow Silk's support. The quality of the silk is indeed recognized among the nobles, now that the Nightglow silk loom has appeared. Judging by the materials and description, it should also be high-quality silk when the time comes. I can have the skeleton tailors make some to see the attributes and then sell it to those nobles and wealthy people. The hardwood double bed blueprint and hardwood screen blueprint that follow don't need special attention. The double bed is a bunk bed structure, and the screen is a partition used in the home, separating an entire space. The last item. Commander's Fortress Command Chair category. Throne. Ability. Fortress units overall attributes. Plus 2%. Description. A qualified commander needs to make some bold moves at the right time. This commander's Fortress Command Chair is quite good. Fang Hao has already established 3 fortresses and several affiliated cities. After returning, he can make them and distribute them to increase the overall strength of each location. He stored all the blueprints, soul crystals, and war coins into his storage space. Just as he went downstairs, he saw Njia and Luo Li laboriously carrying a huge box. "What are you carrying?" Fang Hao asked. Njia pulled off the covering cloth on the box, revealing the golden coins inside. Sure enough, after each battle, Njia was like a police dog, always able to find the place where the other party hid the gold coins. Now there's Luo Li too, her face flushed with excitement. "All right, leave it to me." Fang Hao lightly touched it and directly put it into his storage space. War coins 117242. Gold coins 545547. Fang Hao, I feel like the chandelier and curtains here are nice. I want to take them back to decorate my room. And Jia said, "I want them too." Luo Li also chimed in. Fang Hao looked up. The chandelier was indeed quite beautiful, and the fabric of the curtains was also very thick and luxurious. "Then hurry up. It won't be good if people come later," Fang Hao urged. "Okay." And Jia took Luo Li and started to take action, taking off the items they liked to take away later. Time passed by little. Tavik led some people back to the Lord's mansion. He took the lead and bowed slightly to Fang Hao. "Lord, everything has been taken care of." Tavik gathered the remaining influential people in the city and told them about Fang Hao and the situation in Pearl City. After persuading everyone to support him, he began to arrange for people to take over the city gates and announce the change of city lord to the people. "Good. Next, Pearl City will be left to you to handle. You don't have to worry about the vampires. I will take care of them," Fang Hao said. The few people present breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing Fang Hao's words. It was better for Fang Hao to deal with the vampires than for them to face them themselves. Otherwise, even if Tavik said all the good things, they would not have the courage to fight the vampires. That time, they could only sell their family property and live in other human cities. "Thank you, Lord Fang Hao. We will take good care of Pearl City," Tavik said again. This moment, Tavik changed a lot. His role was changing from a merchant to a city lord. "Okay, I'll leave it to you." After Fang Hao finished speaking, he led Njia and the others out of the city lord's mansion, leaving the rest to Tavik and the others. First, stabilize the situation in the city, and then consider the follow-up matters. "Farewell, Lord." Everyone bowed and watched Fang Hao leave. Walking out of the city lord's mansion, it was already morning. Passing by the gallows, there were many residents gathered here. On the high platform, the vampire Fielding was hung high on the gallows. The rising sun was gradually charring his skin. I'm afraid he won't even last until noon before he's sunned to death. By the sun. An official was loudly telling the story of the vampire attack on the city lord's mansion last night and the unfortunate death of City Lord Cyril. Hearing this news, the people did not have much reaction. They just listened quietly. City Lord Cyril rarely cared about the affairs of the city. For ordinary residents, there was some distance. After blaming everything on the vampires, the official loudly announced that Tavik had become the new city lord and announced many tax reduction policies and the creation of more jobs. These things, which were closely related to the lives of the residents, still caused some commotion and private discussions. Fang Hao and the others watched from a distance for a while before turning around and leaving the residence. Did not show much reaction to the change of lords, which was a good thing for Tavik. Walking to the commercial street, they found that the Rose Tavern was already open. He suddenly remembered that he didn't know if the proprietress had returned safely. He pushed the door open and entered the tavern directly. He saw the proprietress talking to the bartender with a haggard face. She looked like she had just returned. Seeing Fang Hao push the door open, the bartender respectfully bowed. The proprietress squeezed out a smile on her haggard face. You've come. Yes, it's good that you're back. Fang Hao comforted softly. Yes, it's already okay. Haven't you come? The proprietress continued. That's true. Fang Hao smiled slightly and said half-jokingly. Fang Hao sat down aside. The proprietress returned to the counter and got them some beer. Cyril is dead, the proprietress said. She had just gone to the gallows to listen for a while and got the news that Cyril was dead. Dead, Fang Hao replied. Yes, the proprietress nodded. In fact, she had already figured out everything that had happened. Cyril colluded with the vampires and was wiped out by Fang Hao in one fell swoop. That was the truth of the matter. I plan to open a hot pot restaurant in Lizi's city. Would you like to come and help me? Okay.